All right, so are you ready to break down this huge NFL trade? I mean, it seems like everyone's talking about it, right? Geno Smith to the Raiders. I bet you're either prepping for some serious water cooler debates, or maybe you're just like, what is going on here? What does this even mean? Well, either way, get ready because we are diving deep into this trade. We're going to be talking about everything, why it happened, what could happen, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting about this one is it's not just like your typical player switching teams.
Mhm.
It's almost a reunion, right?
Right.
I mean, think about it. Geno Smith, after a couple of pretty surprisingly good seasons with the Seahawks, he's heading to the Raiders, and he's going to be back with his old coach, Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy story.
Exactly. And, that's got everyone kind of raising an eyebrow and being like, wait, hold on a second. The Raiders, they were 4-13 last season. I mean, they really needed a quarterback. And somehow they managed to pick up this guy, a two-time Pro Bowler, threw for over 4,000 yards, not once, but twice in a row. And they got him for what, a third-round pick in 2025? Like, come on.
Right.
It almost feels like it's too good to be true. You know what I mean? It just seems like there's got to be more to this story.
Yeah, you're definitely right to be a little skeptical. I mean, remember all those articles like a while back about how Smith's contract negotiations with Seattle, they kind of they stalled out.
Right.
They just weren't going anywhere. And it seemed like the Seahawks were really hesitant to give him the kind of long-term deal, the kind of security that he was looking for.
Yeah, like he wanted that big commitment, and they were like, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like maybe the Raiders, yeah, they saw this opening and they were like, boom, let's go. Let's jump in and give Smith a new start, a fresh start. And probably a contract that's actually worth, what he's done lately.
For sure.
It makes you wonder, though,
Yeah, right.
right? What does this whole thing tell us about what these two teams are thinking, where they're headed? I mean, it's pretty fascinating. The Raiders, it just seems like they are sending a really clear message. They're like, we're done with this rebuilding thing. We're ready to win, and we're ready to win now. I mean, think about it. They've got a quarterback now. They've got a guy who can get it done. He knows Carroll's system. He's comfortable with it. And on top of that, they just gave Max Crosby, their defensive star, that huge contract, $106.5 million.
Wow.
I mean, that's a statement. They're all in on winning.
And it's not like they're done making moves either, right?
Yeah.
They still got that number 6 pick in the upcoming draft. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll beef up that offensive line. Maybe they'll get another weapon for Smith to work with. But either way, they're in a really good spot to make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, you got the Seahawks. It's like they're playing a completely different game. They're like, okay, we're going to get rid of this potentially massive contract.
Yeah.
We're going to pick up some draft picks. We're going to be flexible. It's a gamble for sure, but it gives them a lot of options.
Yeah, and there are so many rumors flying around about what they're going to do next. Some people are saying they're looking at Sam Darnold, another former Jets quarterback. Maybe they're hoping he can, find his footing in a new place.
Yeah.
But then others are saying they might go for a rookie, like Ashton Janty from Boise State.
Interesting.
It's almost like they're trying to pull a money ball, going for that potential over that proven talent. It's a really interesting strategy.
Definitely high risk, high reward. I mean, if they can find a way to turn one of these guys into a star, they'll look like geniuses. But if it doesn't work out, oh boy, the Seahawks fans are going to be pretty upset.
Yeah, no kidding. They've got to be careful with this one. I mean, it's just so wild to see these two teams going in such different directions, right? The Raiders, they're going all in. They want to win now. And the Seahawks, they're like, you know what? Let's play the long game. Who do you think wins in all of this? Who benefits more from this whole trade?
Man, it's a tough one. It really is. I mean, the Raiders, they're definitely in win now mode. They've got their quarterback, finally, and they're in the AFC West, probably the toughest division in the whole NFL right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So they got to make moves, but they've got a shot. I mean, a real shot to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yep. But the Seahawks, they're doing their own thing. They've got all this cap space now. They've got all these draft picks. I mean, maybe they're not going to be Super Bowl contenders this year, but they've got a chance to build something really special, something that could last for a long time.
It's almost like, you've got these two different timelines smashing together.
Yeah.
The Raiders are sprinting, trying to win it all. And the Seahawks, they're taking their time. They're building for the future. And, even without Geno Smith, they still have this way of finding these hidden gems. Remember how they got Russell Wilson? I mean, who knows? Maybe they can pull it off again. It's true. I mean, that's what's so great about the NFL, right? You just never know what's going to happen. But let's not forget about the human side of all of this. You know what I mean? Geno Smith, he gets a fresh start.
Yeah.
He's back with Pete Carroll, a coach who really believes in him. This could be his chance to shut all the doubters up and prove everyone wrong. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it is. And for the fans, I mean, think about it. There's so much to watch now. Can Geno Smith bring that magic back? Can he lead the Raiders to the playoffs? Can the Seahawks actually pull off this rebuild and become a real threat again? I mean, this whole trade has just thrown so much excitement and just like pure unpredictability into the mix. That's what makes the NFL so great.
Yeah. And speaking of unpredictability, I think this trade also says a lot about what's happening in the NFL right now. Quarterbacks, they're more valuable than ever. Teams are willing to give up anything, tons of picks, tons of money, just to get a guy who can lead their offense.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it makes sense. I mean, think about it. The quarterback is the engine that drives the whole team.
Right.
When you've got a great quarterback, it changes everything. Offense, defense, everything.
The whole game has changed. Teams are realizing that a good quarterback, it's not just a luxury anymore.
Yeah.
It's like you need one if you want to win.
Yeah.
You look at all the top teams, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, they've all got these amazing quarterbacks leading the way.
It's a quarterback's league now, more than ever. And this trade, it just shows you how teams are constantly trying to adapt. They're taking risks, trying to get that edge over everyone else. It's like a big chess game,
It is.
And the pieces are always moving.
This move, it's definitely shaking things up big time. It'll be interesting to see what happens next, how all the other teams react. It's going to be a wild ride.
This really makes you wonder what this is all going to mean in the long run. We've seen some pretty big trades in the NFL before, but this one just feels, I don't know, different.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, you know what it's like. You throw a rock into a pond, and the ripples just keep spreading out. And sometimes you can't even see where they're going to end up.
Right.
So will this be the trade that makes everyone go crazy for veteran quarterbacks? Or is this going to be a warning sign like, hey, don't just throw away your future for a quick win? It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, so many questions. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But, when you step back and think about it, this is about more than just who wins and who loses. This whole trade, it makes you think about how teams are building their teams. How are they trying to win a championship? It's like a philosophy almost.
Yeah, it is. It's like you're looking at two completely different ways of thinking. You've got the Raiders, and they're all about urgency. They're not waiting around. They've got a good team. They think they can win now, so they're going for it.
Yeah, like why wait? Let's just do it.
Exactly. But then you've got the Seahawks, and they're like, no, we're going to play the long game.
Yeah, be patient.
Yeah, we're going to build this team up slowly, carefully. And we're going to trust that we know how to find the right players and develop them.
It's risky, though, right? I mean, it takes a lot of faith in your system. You got to really believe in what you're doing.
Absolutely. But that's what makes it so interesting. There's no right or wrong answer. Both ways, they can work. It all comes down to how you execute it. Can the Raiders actually put all the pieces together? Can they make a real run in the playoffs? And can the Seahawks, can they find that next great quarterback? Build a team that's going to be dominant for years. I mean, we're just going to have to watch and see what happens.
All right, so let's wrap this up. We talked about a lot of stuff today. What are the big things you want people to remember?
Well, I think the Geno Smith trade, it just shows us that the NFL is always changing. Teams are always trying new things, taking risks, trying to figure out how to win. And this trade, it gives us two totally different approaches, right? The Raiders, they want to win now. And the Seahawks, they're thinking about the future.
Two teams, two different paths, but they both want the same thing in the end, the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out.
So for everyone listening out there, here's something to think about. Does this trade mean that teams are going to start valuing quarterbacks even more? And what does all of this tell us about how teams are built, in a league where every little detail can make the difference between winning and losing?
It's a really good question.
We had a blast breaking down the Geno Smith trade. This is definitely going to have a big impact on the NFL. We can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you tune in next time for our next deep dive. We'll see you then.